They have made pronouncements about constitutional reform in general sense, but I think one of the things that Kenny Anthony explained to me somewhere in 2017 was that when it comes to St. Lucia's constitution, it's quite limited as to massive reforms, and most of the reforms that the people are looking for actually would need to go to referendum. The problem with a referendum is that only three in the entire history of the Caribbean have succeeded, right, in any CARICOM state, because most times referendums are passed by a sitting government. Its people are diffused and they've channeled off into after the fact that they've won an election. And the opposition tends to mobilize simply because it's an opportunity to give a little gut punch to the sitting government. So they mobilize, and then the referendums most times fail. That is the big conundrum that nobody really wants to talk about. And for me, I agree with you, but the truth is, I think we have to be honest with ourselves, as Alex George Jr. said to me a couple of months ago. We knew what we were getting. There's no dynamism there. And any kind of progressive, aggressive, forward thinking really is going to come from us. The real question is, how do we get the drivers into positions where they can drive the agendas? Because these guys are not visionary, they're not imaginative. They need that from you, from me. And the only way that that happens is if you can find yourself somewhere in terms of some sort of tangential positioning. And I don't know how that equates for you, but for me, my thing was the advice that I got when I saw, because I'm in the same inertia as you, a limbo as you, and there are about 40 to 60 of us like that. And when I saw that, I went to three people. I went to my father, I went to Kenny Anthony, and I went to Everesta Jamari, and all three of them gave me the same advice. Work with individual ministers until you find the one that can work with you, and the first one that's willing to work with you. Any opportunity you get, take it, because you just want to get your foot in the door. Once your foot is in the door, from there everything else will fall into place. And I'll tell you, I believe me, I did not, and I can be honest, I wanted to work with different ministers, including Richard, but I did not want to be directly under him until I realized that those guys didn't have any intentions of bringing me into government this year or any year. As far as they were concerned, nobody asked me to do what I did, and I was just a burden. So I said, okay, no problem. The stone the builder refused to be the head cornerstone. So I'm just going to work. And as I'm watching myself being sidelined in other ways, I also am saying, wow, this is interesting. It's interesting. But with the current construct, Pip is supposed to have been a transitional leader. 15-2 in his mind and their minds means that if he wants a second term, he can go for it. I understand that, but that's a mistake. And Hilaire's ascension is rubbing the entire Labour Party base the wrong way. The optics and the poor man's UWP, the Shabin version of Chasney type PR is not going down well. And between Alva and Sean, maybe Musa, if one of them doesn't challenge for at least the deputy leadership and get through, basically it's going to be an absolute dogfight where once St. Lucia gets back to normal, complacency will set in, and St. Lucians will, if Chasney and them are de-emphasized enough, all right, once there's any plausible new faces in the UWP that can have any kind of charisma, the Labour Party is in problems.